But do you want to give us a quick intro of you, what you do, and maybe even a quick intro of Slinkity as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Ben. I'm a full stack developer that mostly focuses on front end and UI stuff, working at Peloton right now. And now I'm mostly focusing on this user interface for the most part, and also working on my first open source foray, messing around with crazy new bundlers, static site generation, all this Jamstack buzzwords, I guess, in this project called Slinkity, which is sort of, I guess, the best explanation I have of it. If you've heard of Astro, it's a way to bring all the capabilities of Astro to your existing 11D site if it's switching over. Awesome. And yes, I use Microsoft Edge to anyone who's going to ask about the Microsoft logo. But yeah, so I have I have basically an empty directory here. And I should zoom in looking at that feed. So all I've done in this sort of empty directory is I've set up a source folder, which is going to contain my website, and an empty includes folder. I haven't done anything in there yet, and a little bit of config. All this is doing is saying my app exists inside of source. Go find that when you run this using 11D. Because by default, 11D doesn't even care what your input folder is. You can choose anything you want.
Yeah.
It's just kind of nice to have a source so it doesn't try to process your README. It does that if you're not careful. So yeah, put it in a source folder is my recommendation. But dependency wise, I just have 11D right now. I'm using the latest 1.0 beta, which has been working pretty well for me. And it's what we recommend in our docs as well, so that you can use some of the newer features of 11D that we rely on. But yeah, I'm just going to run through our quick start guide to show how easy it is. So all you need to do is make sure you have 11D in the project already, and we recommend the beta. And then just install Slinkity alongside it. And I recently put out a feature that I'm going to demo here. It's not merged yet because we're failing some tests, but I trust it won't break on us for this demo because I tried it once before. But I also want to shout out, if you didn't know this, you can install a GitHub branch as an NPM package. This is mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
But I just went to my GitHub repo, #, the name of the branch, and now I can do it. So if you want a quick test of reviewing someone's PR, you can just install their branch, which I will do here. But if you're using the stable version of Slinkity, you would just install Slinkity, of course.
Got it.
Yeah, which is in alpha, by the way. I'll add that disclaimer. But yeah, now we have Slinkity and 11D side by side. And all you have to do to start up a dev server is, instead of running 11D, you can run Slinkity. And it accepts all of the same flags that 11D does. So if you use the quiet flag, incremental build, serve, you use all of the same flags. It's just a find and replace of your usages of 11D. It even starts browser sync in a similar way to what 11D does. So if I head over here, it's an empty directory. There is nothing happening on my site right now. But all I have to do in order to make things appear is just start creating files. So something 11D is great at is just processing any template language you could want. Like here, I've just added a markdown file, and now this route exists. It's blank, but it exists with live reloading as well. So I could just say hello world over here, save it, and we see hello world. No additional setup or additional plugins for markdown. It just knows how to process it. And then from here, I can just add more text. I don't know what people's favorite lorem ipsum generator is. I personally prefer
hipster
this
ipsum.
one.
Was the
Hipster
go-to.
ipsum. I love this one though. I want to throw it out here. It's just old Irish, I think. I don't know how this works, but it's a lot of fun.
Someone mentioned bacon ipsum is the thing too as well.
Bacon ipsum. We're going to explore that right now. Let's see it. Wow. Give me bacon. Nice. Nice. That's my new go-to. Thank you, whoever that was.
Yeah. Unassumed Clark.
love it.
Thank you very much for that.
Amazing. Okay, so we have a hello world. We haven't done much to it yet. Next thing that I can sort of show off, and I'm still just showing 11 features, by the way. I haven't done anything. But I can just add a title that says Hello World and maybe a layout as well that we can get to in a moment. But front matter is what this is. It's basically metadata for the pages on your site. Yep. So right now, the word title is accessible both inside of the template. So I can use these little curlies to go grab it, or title, and that'll insert it. And it's also accessible to a bunch of other pages on your site. It's kind of this globally available thing that people can grab for. And one thing that can grab for those is a layout. So if I want to add a wrapper to this, I can use the Bang abbreviation, by the way. If you've never tried that in VS Code, it's very cool. But layouts can access front matter as well. So this layout that's going to wrap around my markdown file can access title and put it into like my browser title. And then it can access the content, which is similar to like React Children or something, and then put it on the page. And then to sort of snap the Lego bricks together, I say, please use this layout. And oh, what did I call this layout? I called it index. Let me call it layout. There we are. Oh, and you also need to safely insert the content, like dangerously setting inner HTML. Okay. With that, now we've wrapped it in a layout. We set our browser title, and then we have like a basic page, and all of that with live reloading as well. I guess I'll pause here for any initial questions before I jump into slinkityness.
Yeah. For the gist of it, if anybody's used Jekyll, if you're not familiar with 11D, you're kind of seeing a lot of the similar features. I think what's really interesting is how fast that refresh is going. Remind me, are you running a node server and there's using other things on the hood?
Yeah, that's right. So this is actually faster than 11D's live refresh. And that's because we're using Vite to live reload the page instead of 11D's like sort of delayed refresh.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why it's delayed, because I found out just putting Vite on it, like it'll refresh instantly.
Yeah.
So that's what we're using now.
Pretty magical. And it's giving me a repetition of like when Evan, you originally showed me Vite on stream. It's very similar in that sort of rapid iteration.
It's very fast, yeah. And it also unlocks like server-side rendering in development, which is something that like Next and Gatsby, I don't think they support it, mostly because it takes a while to reprocess stuff. But because Vite only reprocesses like the page on my browser right now, like it's not going to reprocess every route on my site. It's just going to reprocess this one because I want to see it. It can just like server render all of your components and any other JavaScript resources you have and immediately show you the output. So it's like, it's smart because it only refreshes what you're looking at, which like, it's crazy that we haven't thought of that until now. It's like, that's how it always should have been. We can just listen for what you want and put it at the server level. And I guess that's the main difference of Vite is Vite has a server, and bundlers like Webpack and Rollup do not control the server. So that's why it's sort of been like that, I guess. But yeah, we're running Slinkity right now. This is where in the docs I explain, you know, if you have like an example page like this one, if you want to insert a React component, all you need to do is create that React component somehow. This is a very basic counter example, of course. I just talked about counters, but we're using one, I guess. And then you have to install React and React DOM as dependencies in order for Vite to actually know what to do with JSX files. And then you can just insert it onto the page using this shortcode syntax, which I'll explain in a moment. But I'll do what the instructions say here first, which is in my includes folder, which, by the way, includes is kind of like a junk drawer, similar to like the components folder in Next or Gatsby or everyone, I guess. It's like just a grab bag that everyone can import from. And we have this requirement to sort of nest components within it. And we will be dropping this requirement soon. But for now, you'll need to make a nested components folder and put any component you want inside of here, like this counter of how many glasses of water we've had today, because hydration is important.
Indeed.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. So with that, we can install React and React DOM. And it says dev dependencies. They probably shouldn't be because they are used in the client. But yeah, we've installed those. And now we're free to restart our server, npx Slinkity here. And now within any page I want, I could add my component to my layout file. I could add it to my markdown. I could put it anywhere I want. But here I'm basically going to like rebuild MDX. No need to install MDX. You can just insert React components wherever you want them. So I can just say, go to that components folder and put it in.
And this is a Slinkity feature?
Yes, this is one of the shortcodes that we add to your project. And yeah, shortcodes are already a concept in 11e. We didn't invent them. You could make any shortcode you want. It's just a function that takes in arguments, like the path to a component, and then returns HTML for the page, which I can actually show off in this output folder, which is very easy to read. Inside of here, it generates, if I word wrap that, I guess, it generates this little div with a mount point. And this mount point is where our component is going to mount into the page. If you've ever used Create React App, a div with an ID of main, that's what you're looking at here, basically. But now we have an ID because you could have multiple routes on the page. I could insert this shortcode a million times if I wanted to, and we can have different loaders for each one. So it just kind of stubs that out and says, you're going to need to server render that before sending it to the end user, because if they don't have JavaScript, they should see something. And then inside of here, it inserts a script as well. And this script is just going to import our component directly, and Vite knows what to do with JSX. So we're going to tell Vite, just go resolve this JSX import and slot it into one of our loaders that loads this component resource into this mount point on the page, Create React App style. So if I head back over here, we can already see an interactive component on our page. I didn't even have to refresh or anything. You can just see over here that it discovered that it's going to need an eager loader, and it goes and bundles that dependency as is needed. I didn't have to restart the server for it to discover those new dependencies. So yeah, that's like the most basic example I can give of just like, you can insert components wherever you'd like to, and I can put a bunch of them on the page. Now we got a bunch of routes, and they all work independently of each other.
Yeah, that's interesting, but also really cool. Yeah, now I'm racking my brain on all these use cases, because like what I built. So I spent a lot of time building a lot of marketing sites. I say marketing sites because I don't know if the distinction's clear for folks, but like if you go from netlify.com to app.netlify.com, like the netlify.com is the marketing site where you have like the link to the blog or the link to like some TechCrunch article that they were involved in, or like another component would be like the careers list of jobs where you can embed the page. And you as an engineer, you tend to build stuff like the same thing over and over again. So like you build a quick, like, for example, githubuniverse.com, which is it's a conference that's happening at the end of the month that everybody should sign up for. So I had to say that once during stream. But that's a website we build every year. We rebuild from the ground up. So like if we did, which is the other one, Git Merge, which is a Git-based conference that involves folks who work on Git. It's a similar site. Like we should be able to rebuild that same site with similar components and to sort of reskin it to what it looks like. And I could see this sort of simple, this is like a naive implementation, but I could also see the use case of being able to rebuild these conference sites over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. Keyword naive for sure. But it's got all sorts of features that actually mirror what Astro's doing a lot. I was curious, like, what does our build output look like versus an Astro site? And it's very similar, where they just sort of insert script tags that load into mount points, sort of like creating multiple Create React apps on the same page.
Yeah.
And that's really what partial hydration is. Like everything is a little island that loads up a script and puts it in at the correct time. But I do also want to call out, like, if I were to disable JavaScript in my browser and refresh this page, whoopsies, we still see everything in development. It's not functional, but it was server rendered for us on request. So we're still going to see something even if we don't have that enabled. It also breaks live reloading, of course, to disable JavaScript. But that's a quick way to sort of assert that server-side rendering also works on request.
That is awesome. Yeah, so I mean, my follow-up questions that what you just showed is how can folks get involved in Slinkity? You mentioned it's a only you're a couple months in, 4 months into this endeavor. Um, it's picking up a bit of steam. So we already called out Anthony, who's helping out with some starter guides and templates. But like, where do you need help, and where can folks jump in?
Absolutely. So, well, that is a different resource actually. But over here on our Slinkity/Slinkity, you can find a README to explore the project yourself. And you can head to our issue logs where we have both a lot of issues that are sort of open for requests for comments at the moment. We have like a short code syntax that we're going to introduce so you can like hydrate components within a JSX file. It's kind of like a way to sort of rebuild a .astro file. And also talking about our naming for partial hydration modes, like loading things lazily, eagerly, etc. So definitely like head over to our RFCs and voice your opinions because we'd love to hear them as we build things. But you can also, just hit us up both on the 11D Discord. I meant to make a redirect to go to like slinkity.dev/chat. But at the moment, if you just kind of Google around for 11D Discord, you can go join over here and you'll find our channel over on the plugin Slinkity section. And that's where we sort of have like sort of discussions as you use the project. And also if you want to contribute and sort of get buy-in on ideas that you have, also feel free to open issues with the RFC tag if you want that. But yeah, that's our discussion forum for everything. And our contributing guide is right here, ready to sort of help you with getting a lay of the land, understanding our Git etiquette, anything to check on, including a link to the Discord before you start contributing. And one last call out to our architecture section that explains with some visuals exactly how the internals work and how the CLI and plugin connect to each other if you really want to get involved with Slinkity core, which is where we're looking for the most help at the moment. But yeah, our documentation is available on this too. So if you're more of a CSS person and want to get involved there, just get involved on this repo with that. So yeah, check it out. And the contributing guide should help you get started with all the forums and all of the sort of discourse on that side.
Cool. Yeah, and speaking of discourse, yeah, I see it's interesting. You have a discussions tab here. You're not using discussions, right? You would mention that.
No, we do not. I guess it's because I own the repo that it shows it.
Yeah, I think that what GitHub's doing here is they're showing you that you could enable this. So I guess this tab sort of shows up because I don't see the tab on my end. But maybe we ship that as a new feature.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's why. But I know discussions is also something that we could try out as sort of a way to, because issues are very formal, of course, and they can be kind of intimidating. If you have an idea to like immediately open an issue on it and you don't know if it's a feature other people would want.
Yeah.
We do have like an issue template for features. We want to be welcoming, but to an extent, like our Discord is definitely the best source right now to sort of go talk shop and talk about like, I don't know, any bugs that you run into as well.
Yeah, it's good to have, and I always push folks to have that human interaction and not just sort of blindly open up issues, because if you don't have that connection to, while the project is small, it's a great opportunity to like make sure you're working on stuff or you're alerting stuff that has value. Because if someone, I joke about this all the time, but like, and mainly because like we're in Hacktoberfest. Last year in Hacktoberfest, my project got probably 4 or 5 PRs for linters, adding a linter to the project, which is it's a great contribution. But I got 5 contributions for everybody adding a linter to the project, which kind of tells me that you don't really know about the project, and if I merge this in, you won't stick around. So it's a great great way to sort of show that you're going to hang around and be part of the community, is joining the Discord. Cool.
Yeah, totally. And I did have like a more built out demo if I could show it. I don't know if we're running up on time or anything.
We have time. Yeah, we got about 10 minutes. Okay. So if you wanted to run through that real quick.
Yeah, because you were talking about like conference sites and I was like, well, I built an example of a conference site because that's typically what people sort of reach for 11D for, I guess, because it's very approachable. I know Jamstack Conf actually used 11D for like the whole experience for that reason. But this one is like a more built out version of like a little example that I gave of, oh, shoot, we have 2 servers running. Believe it's on 81. Yes. So this is something that I sort of presented as like a little demo of how you could set things up. But this is sort of more involved where you have a few static assets like a logo and your heading and a bulleted list of information. You don't want to ship JavaScript for this stuff. It wouldn't really make sense.
Yeah.
But then you have like an image carousel using Reach UI, and you want to reach for that dependency, throw it in there, make sure it's accessible with keyboard animations or keyboard focus.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So all of that. And it's nice to reach for a library for that instead of like Wild Westing some plain JavaScript, because like if you're using something like Eleventy, you might be tempted to just to go plain with it. But having components is really nice. So the way this guy's set up is it's literally just an HTML file here that has a few pieces of metadata, but we just inserted a short code for each piece where I've opted out of shipping JavaScript for the heading and the learn more sections. So it's not going to hydrate those. Yeah. But for the image carousel, it's going to reach for all of the talks that I have built out as routes, and it's going to insert that as a prop. So this is reaching for the collections.talks. If you haven't heard of Eleventy collections, it's like a way to aggregate a bunch of information about routes on your site. Like in my talks folder, I have a little metadata for every talk that is just explaining the speakers, the picture, and the title. And using a collection, which I've applied here, using this tag called talks, I'm able to generate an array out of all of these pieces of metadata. So every page turns into an entry with speakers and title and picture as keys on that entry. So instead of having to like have a global data object that you sort of aggregate out, you can do it at the route level. And then all of these exist as pages, so I can link to them directly. And I didn't have to build anything out for like React Router and all of that. It's just a multi-page app at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing.
It was easier to set up than I thought. And you can also see here, like you can just insert images like this because Liquid syntax is so easy. You can just do that. And then I sort of like icing on the cake, I thought, well, if you get to the bottom of a page about this, maybe you want to learn more about other talks. So you can easily like make another layout that inserts that image carousel and then lazily loads it. So that way, when you like first visit the page, if I sort of check my network here of JavaScript resources, you don't get all of the chunks, but then when they want that interaction, then it imports Reach UI to give you like, and you can imagine like a comment section, waiting to load the comment section until it's on the page or something like that. But also just for like general footer information, like Lazy is really good. So yeah, that's like mainly what I wanted to show off was like when you insert like different rendering modes of like, I want to load this resource lazily because it's in the footer. I want to load it statically because it's just a logo. It gives you a lot of flexibility if you have those like existing libraries of components sitting around and you just want to throw it into something simple. With the option to like use Vue and Svelte as well. Like if you wanted to try out a Svelte component for one page, you could just insert a Svelte component and there it is. May not be the most efficient thing, but you can totally do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about being able to have the flexibility of trying these things out, and I love this path into trying things in a different manner. So like, I keep talking about this. I mentioned it here, but I've also talked about it with a couple friends where I feel like there's two different paths happening. Where you have got the Next.js route, which makes sense if you're going to do the app.netlify.com experience. Next.js is probably the thing I'm going to reach for. Mm-hmm. The Jamstack Conf experience, Slinkity makes a lot of sense, and like I might not need the extra weight of a full-on, all batteries included framework like a Next.js or like a Redwood or Blitz or whatnot. Yeah. But this is quite intriguing, and I definitely, as someone who builds a lot of sites and a lot of apps, this is definitely going to be added to my repertoire.
Yeah. And like going to Jamstack Conf, like I didn't expect for everyone to sort of be talking about the same thing. That's kind of how it was. Like everyone became fascinated with partial hydration around the same time. And it was like Rich Harris's talk on transitional apps, where it's like, I don't want to just use like a really heavy like Blitz or Redwood to build a conference site, but I also don't want to just use a site and then regret it later when I need some interaction. Like it's a spectrum of needs, and we need a tool that can sort of like go along that spectrum. And tools like this and Astro, like they're limited in that they're not single page apps. You can't have like a React context and a user object everywhere. You can use local storage, but that gets like hairy. Yeah. So it's like, there's some pieces that are like, well, I guess you still need Next in the story somewhere, just for that heavy stuff. I know SvelteKit's being very interesting on what they're doing. But yeah, I don't know where it'll lead, but the general theme is like our needs are on a spectrum, and we need a tool that can sort of progressively add more interactive pieces as we need them, like partial hydration.
Yeah, awesome. Well, this has been super enlightening in conversation. Whoop, I almost lost the entire stream. I think we're still up.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't know, but
yeah, it blacked out for a second. But I just wanted to really just thank you for your time. And I never called out. I know we had people in the chat asking about the whiteboard, but I just wanted to ask: did we cover every talking point on that?
Did we cover every talking point? I've been going through in my head. We talked about Elevony and Vite. Getting started for sure. Go to the quick start guide over on the Slinkity docs. Core features of partial hydration. We talked that to death. And how can I contribute? Definitely go find the contributing MD file that I totally didn't whip up 30 minutes before this call. So if there are typos, I'm sorry, but took some notes from like how Redwood does docs. And I think Redwood's kind of like the gold standard from what I was looking at. Like they really help you out. They even have something for like trying out the framework on a local project and having it live reload changes as you edit the core. I was like, wow, I need to implement that. So yeah, that's amazing. So definitely want to follow in their footsteps. But that's everything on the board, I think.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, since we basically cleared the board at this point, Ben, thanks so much for your time. Folks, like and subscribe to this content if you're interested in hearing more about open source projects and maintainers and their stories and where you can contribute. We do this every Friday, as opposed to actually not next Friday, but the Friday after. This is a weird month because we've got GitHub Universe, which I did want to also shout out, githubuniverse.com. Sign up. We've got a very hefty lineup. Of course, the CEO is going to talk about GitHub on GitHub and us leveraging code spaces. A lot of our day-to-day coding, and you'll see some talks from me. So I'll be in the keynote, so definitely check it out.
Nice.
And with that, everyone, go ship some code. I don't know, deploy on a Friday.
Deploy on a Friday.
All right, cheers.
Yeah.